about the Ending Violence Against Aboriginal Women. And as part of that, I was picked to say thank you to the Aboriginal women here. And part of that is a tradition with tobacco ties, which is tobacco in a 100% cotton tie. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashton. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah McLean. I am the Ending Violence Against Aboriginal Women Coordinator at the Métis Nation of Ontario, and today I have Jennifer Laurier, who is the manager of Ending Violence at the Métis Nation of Ontario, and we're going to talk to you about some of the work we do, and then we're going to talk about ways that you can get engaged with this issue, and I brought an activity for us to do at the end, because sitting and talking is awesome, but it's also really good to get involved and find tangible ways. So in the second half of the presentation, we're going to talk about ways you can engage with this issue. Pay special attention because we're going to go back to that after the presentation. Okay, so this is what we're talking about today. What are the issues of violence against Aboriginal women? Who are Aboriginal women? Why is this happening? How do we achieve better outcomes for Aboriginal people and for our communities as a whole? We're going to talk a little bit about my organization, the Métis Nation of Ontario, the work we do, the public education campaign, which is called Honoring Métis Women as part of our culture, and then we're going to talk about how you can get involved in the campaign. So because you're here, I'm going to make the assumption that many of you know who Aboriginal people are in Canada. We are a group of diverse people, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. I myself am Métis from Alberta, as is Jennifer, as she's working on her project for later. And we all have very distinct cultures, traditions, but we often are related and share some of these traditions. The Métis people were a distinct Aboriginal group. We're made up of descendants of both First Nation and European settlers. There we go. And most Métis people can trace their ancestry to a Métis settlement, so a group of Métis people historically. Often there's a misconception if you have one parent who is First Nation and one parent who is not, that you're Métis. But because we have this ethnogenesis, or this creation of a people with our culture, our language, our historic ties to the land, we are a distinct group of people. So before we get into conversations about ending violence against Aboriginal women, violence, I think it's important to talk about how these issues are talked about. Often they'll be sensationalized. You'll hear about human trafficking. You'll hear about missing and murdered Indigenous women, but we don't talk about those roots and where these issues come from. So the language and the terms we use to talk about these issues have changed a lot. Since I've been working on this issue, I'm only 32 years old, but since this issue has been dealt with over the past hundreds of years, there's been different ways that we conceptualize it, different ways we talk about where this comes from. So, it has moved from a place of shocking, talking about specific acts of violence, trying to get headlines, to a place of understanding why this is happening and understanding how we can address it. One of the issues that is often in the media and we often talk about is missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. So this is a big issue. I'm sure you've heard about it today. I'm also sure that you've heard about some of the reasons why this is happening. Talking about colonialism, talking about the devaluing of Aboriginal people, women, land, and how that can lead to violence. So this image up here is from the Native Women's Association of Canada, and these are some of the images of women and girls who have gone missing. So we can talk about violence, but I think we also have to kind of locate that in the language that we're using. Talking about bodily autonomy, reproductive justice, intersectionality, criminalization of Indigenous people, making sure that the work we're doing is inclusive, and talking about agency. So these are all different ways that we can talk about addressing violence. I'm going to go into what some of these words mean. I'm imagining many people in the room are familiar with a lot of these. At the end there, it has names of families with an asterisk. So often people talk about this issue and they'll say, this one name, or I want to tell the story of one family, which is important. Which is important to think about these people as human beings and their connection. But if you talk about a woman who's experienced violence or lost her life, and you're only talking about how she has lost her life, or the incident around that one instant, you're losing that she was a human being, just like everybody in this room, and has a family, and has a community, and has people who care about her, and has contributed so much to that community, that she's so much more than one instance. And that's how we start to talk about ending that violence, because we start thinking of people as multidimensional and not just one moment in their lives. Statistics is another one that I get a little frustrated about, because people often want to say, this is a statistic, there's 592 women, or there's over 1,000, or to me, if one woman has been murdered, if one two-spirit person has gone missing or has experienced violence, that's enough for us to be concerned and trying to address those root causes. So yes, this is a huge systemic issue. A bunch of people are affected by it, probably more than we can understand, because often we'll go to the RCMP or we'll go to people trying to understand this from going through media, which isn't necessarily an accurate way to do that, because in our communities, we know when people go missing, and maybe the police aren't investigating it in a respectful way, or maybe they don't have a full idea of what has happened. But I think that when we talk about statistics, we're losing the humanity. We're losing who these people are, and the fact that this issue is wildly unacceptable. Consent. So I feel like the folks in this room probably have a much better idea of consent than a lot of people I work with or interact with every day, because young people get consent. You guys have learned about it, you talk about it. When I want to explain consent, I will often go to someone who's in high school or in university and be like, what is language that makes this understandable? Consent is not just about sex, and that's something that is not hard for, I'm sure, most people in this room to understand. Consent and bodily autonomy, being in charge of your own body, what you do with it, how other people interact with it, all of these things are also reflected in my culture. So I am Métis. Also, I'm Otipemisiwak. So Otipemisiwak is a Cree word for Métis. It means in Cree, roughly, the people who govern themselves, the people who are their own boss. So I am Otipemisiwak, and I really embrace that, because I decide what I do with my body, how I interact with other bodies, if I allow someone to touch me, to interact with me, if they want to share a story that has been shared with me from an elder, I get to determine how that interaction goes. Today, when I was gifted tobacco, I was really honored, because this comes from my tradition of honoring our history, honoring our land, and that made me feel really comfortable to share knowledge I have with all of you and know that it's going to be respected, and know that you guys are going to be open to it. You might disagree with me, and that's okay, but I know that because you're acknowledging that there is consent happening. Why is this happening? So this slide, I think, is huge and a bit scandalous, but I think it's really important that we look at some of these terms. All the women we spoke to saw colonization and genocidal policies as the root causes of the violence they experience as women and nations. So you've been learning about colonization, residential schools, the 60s scoop, the millennial scoop, people losing their culture, losing their language, families being torn apart, and these being government and church-sponsored acts. A direct wish to destroy culture, destroy people. That's what that genocide is. To no longer have my people exist. And in that, there's other outcomes, such as the devaluing of Aboriginal women, such as the devaluing of lands and our teachings and our knowledge. So I think it's really important that you think of this not as one woman is murdered, which is unacceptable, or one trans person or two-spirit person is missing, which is also unacceptable, but in that larger concept. And this is something that has been sponsored by the government, sponsored by the churches that are hugely influential. So understanding the root causes of violence also includes conversations around stuff that is connected to that. Patriarchy, misogyny, trans-antagonism, and lateral violence. So patriarchy that is very rooted in that Western ideal of men and straight white men predominantly being the center and the normal, and everything else being less than that. And fortunately, my generation and your generation challenge those ideas. Misogyny, that anger and hatred towards women that I'm sure you've all seen at some point in your life. Trans-antagonism. So that's beyond being uncomfortable. That's trying to erase people whose gender expression isn't cis or isn't normal or normative. And lateral violence. That's violence that happens in our communities. So harm that has happened from colonization, from these colonial projects, that has people turning in on their communities and trying to harm each other. So lateral violence exists in communities where a cultural group or a community is harmful to each other. So if a Métis person and a First Nation person are trying to harm each other instead of working together to address some of these causes. Why is this happening? A disproportionate amount of violence is enacted on First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people and bodies, and it's the direct result of devaluing and dehumanizing, not seeing Indigenous people as human beings, not seeing them as having value. And that's, to me, terrifying. And when I hear about a person being discovered murdered or missing, I understand that as someone didn't value them and value their life as good enough to continue. Can you go back for a sec? So that's really heavy and terrifying. But there is something that we can do. By honoring and supporting each other, by lifting each other up and valuing those stories, those voices, those people, that is how we break these cycles of violence. Which I think is an incredibly powerful idea. It's huge and it seems really simple. By valuing and respecting someone as a human being, you directly break these cycles. So we put the slides together for when we were working with our coworkers, so this seems very work language. How do we achieve better outcomes or solutions? The solutions to violence, it's grounded in embracing decolonization, so challenging those ideas of colonialism, of the normative, of one way being a white Western way being right or more valuable. Harm reduction, that's meeting people where they're at. When we have people come into our office, because we have awesome services through the M&O, where you can come in and get support around nutrition or support around counseling, or if you have a baby coming, it's a very cool place to work. But we meet people where they're at. You don't need to be at a certain point in your healing, you don't need to be at a certain point in your life. We just honor people where they're at in their healing journey, and I think that's also kind of incredible and powerful. Our work is trauma-informed, so we are informed by the experiences of the person we're helping, and it's culture-based. So everything we do is based in our culture and based in the strength. It's that honoring work. Let's get this. So the Métis Nation of Ontario, which is the governance structure for Métis people in Ontario, every 4 years we have an election and we elect a president and a chair and different folks that do the governance work of our organization. They're almost like our provincial government. And every summer we have an annual general meeting and we come together and we decide what issues we want to work on, what is important to our people. And over the last couple of years, something that has been resoundingly important in all of our communities is ending violence. We we see way too much violence, and we all want to take an active role in ending it. So some of the things that we've done is we've passed resolutions, we've made this declaration, we've engaged in a public education campaign, and that's what I do at work, all around honoring Me Too women and adding value and honoring Two-Spirit people as a way to end violence and embrace our culture. So I brought some of, you can keep going. I brought some of our community engagement toolkits, and the slides that are going to come up next are different participatory activities that are in them. I thought you folks might want to take a couple back to your school. We have art-based, culture-based activities that talk about honoring Métis women, honoring our communities, having strong, resilient communities.
And Sarah, do you have to be Métis to deliver these activities?
What a great question, Jen. She asked if you have to be Métis to deliver these activities, and you don't. You can just be a person in a community who does not want to accept violence and wants to honor Métis, First Nation, and Inuit women, Two-Spirit people, and communities. So some of the activities we have are a prayer that was gifted to us by one of our elders, our Senator Rita Gordon. Our senators is a term for elder, not like the hockey team or the government. And then we have activities like our Healing Blanket Workshop, where we put in messages of resilience and strength, and we are gifting those to folks who are going through a hard time. Our Infinity Strands, that's where we make a commitment to this work. Some of you may have seen the Faceless Dolls, maybe? Show of hands. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Okay, I see some hands. You're a shy group. That was a legacy workshop that was gifted to us from the Native Women's Association of Canada, and we do that to honor the diversity and resilience of our Métis communities. This is a picture of me and one of the youth who works with us. Our Honoring Métis Women 5-pill rose. So we use beadwork, which is hugely important to my culture and my understanding of being Métis, and we bead roses and gift them to women in our community. And Jen has one. You can hold it up. I gifted one to Jen because she is a Métis woman in my community who I wanted to honor, and I look up to her. The Daughter Workshop, which I'm going to just spend a moment on explaining. So, Métis people were known as the flower beadwork people. Beadwork was how we related to our environment, how we related to plant life, how we related to each other. Often, Métis women primarily, but also men and Two-Spirit people, would gift beadwork to their loved ones. So, a woman in a Métis community might have no beadwork of her own, but her partner or children would have a ton of beaded coats and bags and saddles and mitts and a ton of different things. So, a Métis artist named Christy Belcourt, who's incredibly talented, and she's an activist, and she wanted to find a way to express this beadwork in her painting. And she started by adding little dots to the painting she was doing to represent those little beads. And that has evolved to paintings that are just almost completely all little dots made with different instruments. And this is how you represent that beadwork. So I brought with us today a dot art activity and some paint and some Q-tips. I thought we'd have tables, but that's fine. You guys look like you're adaptable. And we're going to do an activity around dot art in a couple minutes. And this is a really neat activity because you can do it with people of any age, and it's really easy. You get some paint, you get some Q-tips, and you can do this activity. I think what's really cool about it is that you get to talk about making people with culture as well as painting. Okay, this is what I mentioned earlier to pay attention to because it's going to be related to our dot art. We have come up with 10 ways you can commit to this campaign that we work on. 10 ways to honor Métis women and Two-Spirit people in your community. And this is not just for Métis people, this is for everyone. And this is the active work we can do to end this violence. So if you are horrified by the violence that Aboriginal women, Two-Spirit people, and people in general experience, these are some tangible ways that you can start to address that and change attitudes. First is be a visible champion of change. So we have some indicators or things that you can put up that are visible. We have posters. I brought enough posters for all of you. And this has some beautiful beadwork done by an artist named Velvet Johnson. And it says, honoring Métis women is part of our culture. So you can hang that up in your locker or at home or in your church or wherever you like. We have the M&O prayer that was gifted, and you can share that if you wanted to hold an activity, do a daughter session, you can read that prayer and say, this is something that is important to Métis people. You can facilitate and host a workshop that honors Métis women and Two-Spirit people. You can attend, host, organize a rally, workshop, or vigil to honor Métis women. I'm sure you've heard about the October 4th vigil that happens every year here in Ottawa on the Hill to honor missing and murdered women, February 14th. But then there's also dates like December 6th, which is International Women's Day. And that's another day that you can have conversations and you can engage with these types of activities that honor Indigenous women. You become engaged. Participate in general discussions, raise awareness, start these conversations. And as you can see from this picture, that there's people of very different ages in there. We have, can I tell them who that is? One of Jennifer's daughters there at a vigil with us. And then we have some of our aunties and grandmas at the top playing drums. So this is something that we can engage with in different ways.
Thank you for asking my consent.
Oh, I'm so glad to ask your consent. You can start a conversation. I've included a video here that talks about Métis culture. I think we're going to skip it because dot art is more fun than listening to me talk. I'm very aware of it. But there's lots of different resources where you can learn about Métis culture and Métis people. You can start a conversation and raise awareness of honoring Métis women and ending violence against Aboriginal women in your workplace, school, community, with your friends. You can gift a Métis woman or Two-Spirit person in your community a sash or a rose brooch to honor them. So if you wanted to do an activity where you need a brooch, which is that 5 kilo rose activity, you can then gift that to someone in your community. And that is a really powerful way of being connected to the culture and also honoring Métis women's culture. You can add the Honoring Métis Women as part of our culture banner to your Facebook or Twitter profile to spread awareness of the education campaign. This is really adorable because we've had a lot of our more senior citizens who are involved do this, and it's really exciting to see these little cutouts. Do you have a question?
I think I just realized that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that dot art on the circle thing?
Dot art on the circle thing. This circle thing. Yeah, that is, I think that is dot art. Good eye. So, you can embrace your role as a leader in helping this work, find strength in language, culture, and traditions, and feel empowered to affect change in your community. And again, this is for all of us to engage with. So, is there any questions? Other than if this is dot art. Good catch. Who said that? How they went? How long does it take them to do dot art? Well, you're about to do dot art, so we will find out. Jen actually just did some dot art while I was talking. Do you wanna talk about the dot art?
So, hi, I'm Jen. I work with Sarah. We've known each other for a long time. I am Métis. My home community is Lac St. Anne, which is just outside of Edmonton, Alberta. But I have been living in Canada. I lived overseas most of my life, but I came back to Canada when I was in grade 7, and I live in the East End, so Henry Larson Elementary School, and I went to Gloucester High School, and I also went to Ottawa U and Carleton. I did my master's here at Carleton, so it's great to be back here, and I know many of you are from the East End too. For the dot art, one of the reasons why we like to do this activity is because maybe if we brought needles and thread and asked you to bead, you might say like, oh, I'm not going to be good at this, even though everyone can be a beader. I have learned to become a beader too. But one of the reasons why we talk about dot art is because when we speak about Indigenous peoples, oftentimes we think about something in the past, right? Like living in a longhouse, living in a teepee, voyageurs in the canoe, which still exist today as symbols of our culture and ways that we practice our culture, but it's not something that Sarah and I would do in a regular day. So that's part of it. While we honor it and we're walking on a different path in a more modern time, it's really interesting when we have dot art, as Sarah said, when Christy Balcourt, who is Métis, invented this and started with this new work, it was something new for us as Métis people to be proud of. And when you go to the National Art Gallery here in Ottawa and other galleries across the country, you'll see some of her work and that dot art. And to see it as something new that we're creating so that we're not, it's called ossified. Like, people see us as, well, where's your buckskin? Like, where's your beaded brooch now? Where are these things now? But I'm a living and breathing Métis woman today. So dot art is a great way to connect with people about it, but also to talk about it as a progression. That it started from beadwork, but now it's a new, modern, contemporary form of artwork. So what we're going to do today is based on what Sarah talked to you about, those 10 commitments, and we can put them back on the screen as well. You're all going to come, and it probably won't work in the little chairs you're in, but we have space like around the ground. Come in a group of 4 or 5 and take a little tray of paint, and you can make your own flower. And on there, there's a space for your name. Talk about one commitment about this work. If it means just going home and at the dinner table talking to your family about this issue and what you learned today, that's all it needs to be. If you're going to take the poster and hang it on your locker or bring it back to school and just have it so that if a Métis person comes, they see that they're welcome, they see that you know that, that's a great commitment. We don't all have to change the world and be prime minister to do that. We just have to do these small incremental steps. And as you'll see here, I did this in like 5 minutes when Sarah was talking at the beginning. You just take the dots and just trace it around, and there's the different colors. And when you're done, we'll stick them around on the board, and at the end of the day, you can come back and take it, because it's going to be wet for a little bit, but it'll just take 5 minutes to dry. Does anyone have any other questions about what we're trying to do? Do you want to go back on any of the commitments that Sarah talked about? Yeah. There's a microphone right there. They're recording it, so we kind of need to have.
So I just wanted to ask, where do you believe like this violence is stemming from? Do you think it's more within the community or outside, or both?
Okay, so I know this answer, right? Who wants to also talk about this? Where do we think this violence is coming from? What was Sarah talking about? It's the devaluing of First Nation, Métis, Inuit women, where at one point, First Nation, Métis, Inuit women in their communities were highly valued, and from those outside of their communities were valued, we no longer have value. And value is a strong word, it's a broad term, but we do have violence within our own communities. But when Sarah's talking about colonization and access to services and the institutions, right? I told you I went to school both here at Ottawa U and at Carleton. I can probably tell you like one class maybe that talked about Indigenous issues. Or if I wanted to write my thesis for my master's on Indigenous issues, the pushback that I received from that, from my own peers to say, this is not important. Or we don't have a professor who knows anything about Indigenous issues and the UN and the Permanent Forum, which was what I took my master's in international affairs. We don't have anyone who's interested in that. So, okay, well, pick another topic. No, this is a topic I want to write on. And so we have to participate in it. But when we talk about it, that's, why is this happening? It's very complex. But the short answer is, it's the devaluing, where once we have value, now we don't in society. Thank you very much. Paint.
One more note before I say come on up and get stuff. 2 more notes, sorry. The first note is some of this paint is acrylic. So please be very careful with it, because if it gets on your clothes, it may stay on your clothes. And please don't mix the colors, because we don't have a ton of supplies. We want everyone to have an opportunity to do this activity. And the final note is, if you have any mobility issues or you're not able to come up, just pop up your hand or ask someone next to you to pop up your hand and I can bring supplies to you. All right, are folks feeling ready to do an activity? Yeah. All right, so in an enthusiastic but orderly way, come on up to the front and try and share supplies. We probably have about one little set of piece per 5 or 6 people.
we have about 5-6 minutes left. Do we have anyone who's finished who'd like to read out? You don't have to, but I would just say that would be adorable. Don't forget to write down it in your commitment too. I know some of you are hesitant to put something down in your commitment, but it's just talking about this issue to one other person, maybe doing a project on it at the end of the school year, something like that. If some of you are in a social justice club or doing that, bringing that forward. So you can bring them back to the front if you want. We can hang them up to dry, or you can take it with you. Totally up to you. You can take a picture of it, bring it back, show your teacher what you were working on today, prove that you actually attended the workshop. Yeah, someone asked if you put it up, can you come back to get it later on? That's fine. We just wanted to give you a safe place to put it up so it can dry. But you can come back after the closing prayer and come and get them. 2 o'clock. I'll get you all just to sit back down for 2 seconds, just so we can thank you for participating. If you drop paint on one of the chairs or anything, please come get a paper towel and help me clean it up. That's right, I'm looking at this table over here and the paint on there. Yeah, your little table, that's okay. I'm not shaming you, I'm just pointing it out, for example, one of those areas just to clean up so that I don't get in trouble afterwards. On behalf of Sarah and I, we just wanted to say Marcy. So in our language, Michif, it's very similar to French in Ontario, and as we go further west towards the prairies, it sounds a little bit more Cree. But we say Marcy to all of you for participating, and we hope you have had a great day. Please take posters. We have one more binder if someone wants to take that, but thank you very much. Oh, sorry, it's spoken for. Thank you, everybody. Marcy. So now you guys are supposed to go to Fen Lounge and the Residents' Commons for the closing prayer.